So first up, we have Mr. Liam Campbell. Liam makes design with code and vice versa. When he was 19, he dropped out of college to work for the first person who offered him money to make websites. That and other subsequent horrible mistakes have taught him everything he knows about design, code, and survival, and he's going to share some of that with you today. We were due to have Jennifer Daniel here today. She was unable to make it, but we have a more than worthy replacement in Ms. Erika Hall. Erika is a co-founder of Mule Design and author of Just Enough Research from a Book Apart, and the guardian of Mr. Rupert the dog. And finally, I'm going to make space for his presence. We have Mr. Mike Monteiro. Mike is the co-founder and design director of Mule Design. He's also a speaker and writer. His latest book, You're My Favorite Client, has just been published and will make a swell pairing with his Design as a Job book. Mike is also a great follow on Twitter, where he's known to occasionally stir things up. So this is our panelist for today, everybody. Let's give him a round of applause. So for anybody who doesn't know, Dear Design Student is a Medium publication started by Mike and some of the folks at Mule Design, really to impart some wisdom, teach everybody the shit they didn't learn in design school, right? Because when you graduate design school, you don't know how to be a designer. Okay, you know.
You don't know anything when you graduate.
You don't know anything when you graduate design school. So this is a series of
you owe a lot of
posts. That's absolutely true. And so people can submit questions, and the folks at Dear Design Student will answer those questions in their Medium posts. So it's absolutely essential reading for any kind of designer just coming out of school, or anybody who's been in the business a few years and is looking to become a better designer, figure out how to work with clients, all of that type of stuff. So get your questions ready, everybody. I'm going to kick it off with one, which came through. We had a couple come through on email. Unfortunately, I'm becoming the only designer at a startup as a fresh graduate just out of school. Anything I can do to minimize the negative impact on my growth before I get another opportunity at a more mature company?
So the question was how to avoid letting your startup stunt your growth like some sort of toxin?
I guess the question in a nutshell is probably, should I work for a startup straight out of school?
No.
Okay.
No.
Probably not. I kind of did.
How did that go for you, Liam?
It was fine. I learned some things, but mostly in spite of myself.
Yeah, you seem really relatively undamaged, which is very impressive.
I just hide it well.
Secret darkness.
Do not mistake composure for ease.
Here's the deal. So you go to design school, you don't learn how to work. You've never had a job before, and you've never actually had to practice design as a professional. You've never had to deal with real clients. You've never had to deal with real feedback. You've never had to deal with real requirements, just fantasy crap. And so the best thing that you can do at this point when you graduate is to find a job where you can actually learn from somebody who's done all of those things for a very long time, because they're going to have a lot of tricks that they can teach you. And they'll have been through all of this before, and you can learn from those people. this is just your standard mentor apprentice thing for anybody who saw Star Wars last night. And by the way, I'm still really sad about Luke. But when your first job is at a startup, and this is not a dig against startups, this is about putting the right people in the right place at the right time. If you go to work for a startup, you're likely going to be in that sort of position where you might be the only person there who does what you do, and you've never actually done it before. Or you might be there with a couple of other people who are in the same shoes that you are, so there's nobody there to learn from. And this is a message for startups as well. You should be looking to hire people who are experienced in the field, who've done this a million times, and who aren't like trying to figure out, because they're not trying to figure out the craft as they go, because you're already doing something that's incredibly chaotic. You're trying to build a company on the fly, and you don't want to populate that company with people who are also trying to learn their profession on the fly. So let those people go to places where they can learn that profession from somebody who's been in it for a very long time, and then eventually, when you've got your sea legs under you, then go looking for startup jobs, because that's a whole nother level of chaos, and you got to get your shit together before you enter that level of chaos.
And may I add, if you're already at a startup and you're like the only person on a team, if you're like new designer or something like that, probably the best thing you can do without a mentor, and this is something that I did, is just use the fact that there's almost no one there giving you direction to go in every direction at once and try a little bit of everything. And kind of what I did when I got out of my weird little lonely startup job is that the moment I had some mentors, I had a bunch of questions already saved up. And I knew what I didn't know, at least a little more. So that's helpful.
I figure I'm right next to the microphone, so I may as well use my opportunity. Is there a particular question you get through a lot for a Dear Design student? And if so, what do you think is the way that can be, that should be taught better in design school, so you don't have that constant thing of whatever that question may be?
I'd say the common theme is often, how do I stand up for myself? Is something that really runs through everything, because you learn to deal with criticism with your work, but then you're out in the real world. And I think a lot of people get thrown into situations where nobody's looking out for their interests but them anymore. And as these guys were saying, without a mentor, that can be really, really tough to be thrown into those situations that school did not prepare you for. Like, school prepared you for talking about the work to other designers, but it didn't prepare you for talking to managers or talking to people from other disciplines like engineers. And it didn't necessarily prepare you, and I'd say the thing to do, my piece of advice, is to ask a ton of questions. And I think people aren't ready early in their careers to have the confidence to say, oh, I can say I don't know something, and just continually ask people what they mean, instead of thinking, feeling a little insecure and feeling like, oh, if I ask what they mean, I'm going to reveal my ignorance and look dumb. But just constantly saying, like, why do you say that? What does that mean? Is that a good thing to do?
I agree.
A lot of questions we get can be kind of summed up in the category of, why isn't my client reading my mind? And there's a level of communication that's not learned in school, and that's, kind of, designers, they're kind of like wearing the fuzzy hats and the big earphones and not talking to anybody. And I've seen designers spend like 3 days trying to, source a typeface that they could have, asked a client about if they had made a 3-minute call. Like, hey, what's that typeface in your logo? But no, they'll spend like 3 days trying to recreate it, because that's somehow easier than making a phone call. And, they'll argue that, they're not giving me the kind of feedback that I need. And then you ask them, like, did you tell them what kind of feedback you were looking for? No. So stuff like that. I mean, you got to realize that clients hire you because they're the expert at the thing you do, and they're admitting that they need that kind of expertise. And I see a lot of designers entering into client relationships, and they want the client to be the expert in design, But the client already hired an expert in design. They're just not acting like it.
But talking to people, it's scary.
It's a job. I'm trying real hard not to curse because Skylar's here. She knows them all? Okay.
She might know ones I don't know.
So my question is, in Design as a Job, Mike says no one's hiring you to be your friend. So I'm especially interested to see what Erika has to say, because I want to know if you have any advice for women who are concerned about being labeled a bitch or hard to work with if they stand up for their ideas.
That's a great question.
Yeah, thank you so much, because actually, and this is true, when I was up this morning thinking about this, when I knew I had to step in for Jennifer, I was hoping somebody would ask me exactly that question, because I was thinking, what do I want to tell people? Yeah, so the biggest, I think we have a lot of, in Hollywood, a lot of excellent female role models are stepping up, like Helen Mirren, and speaking of Star Wars, Carrie Fisher, if you didn't see her fantastic interview with her dog Gary. They are excellent role models for, cover your ears, Skylar, giving no fucks. And this is the advice I would give. She's doing her homework. It's fine. This is the advice I would give to women starting their careers. And this is when I look back and I think of the situations when I was particularly successful, where I was really interested in the work and very enthusiastic about the work. And I think a lot of women worry about being likable. And I think what you should just be concerned about is like doing something that's really interesting to you, because the enthusiasm that comes through that's the right kind of rapport you want. You want job-based rapport, like, hey, we're all working on something really cool and challenging together. And you just don't care if people think you're abrasive. I love arguing with people. I always have. It's really fun, like in a productive way, not in like a fighty way. But if you come at it with that, I want to do the job really well, I want to ask questions, and I'm not afraid of confrontation because I want to be challenged so I get better. If that's your mantra and that's your attitude, that's where all your strength comes from. And everything else is like, awesome, I'm abrading you, fantastic. You'll have smoother skin after we talk. And yeah, and just not caring about that part. It's like, yes, stop worrying about being liked, because I think there's like this cognitive overhead that women carry where it's like, oh, do people like me? Just stop caring. And I feel very confident that Jennifer, if she were here, we would high five and then do a little dance in our cat leggings over that one. Like, I'm going to wear what I want to wear. I'm going to do the work I want to do. And let's all focus on the work. That's my piece about that.
Well, actually.
Yeah.
Just being a white dick.
You had that one chambered since you started talking, didn't you?
All right, who else has a question?
I can go there, or I could just take this. Okay. So you were talking about being able to talk to clients, and in technology, the language is skewed towards engineering metaphors, engineering ideas, because the programmers lead what we're building, etc. I was talking to a recruiter at my company. We were looking for UX designers, and I was trying to figure out what they meant by UX. Do they mean UX? Do they really mean UI? Do they really mean visual designers? What are they looking for? So I said, Ryan, what are we looking for in a designer? And he says, oh, we need a full stack designer. What the goddamn hell?
Like pancakes?
That sounds good.
That means. Like, don't work at any place where you're not going to be respected. Yeah. And I mean, there's been a shift happening in the last 5 years. I mean, I think every generation we rediscover design. It's fantastic, and then we forget about it again, and then we realize that we actually need it because somebody decides to pay attention to it, and they end up making a lot more money than their competitors. So then everybody else is like, "Wow, yeah, I got to get on this design train. It's going to be cool." So I'm actually seeing a lot more design-driven companies than engineer-driven companies at this point. I mean, maybe that's because I live in this ridiculous bubble that we live in. So, this city. But yeah, don't work anywhere. Don't work anywhere or for anyone that doesn't respect what you do, because you're not going to be able to do good work for them. And that's what you need. At the end of the day, it has to be about the work. And if so don't put yourself in a situation where you can't work.
Yeah, and I'd echo that and say that's one of it's important to be in a place that respects what you work, and in order to respect something, you have to understand it, or at least be open to understanding it. And that's one of our criteria for taking on clients. Like if a client comes in and they say, somebody told us we needed some design stuff because design thinking and design unicorn, whatever, and what they want us to do is just be a set of hands for them, and they don't really believe, like they know that they think design is a spread that you put on the outside of your crappy solution. We just won't work for them because it won't be a satisfying relationship for anybody, and they don't know what problem they want to solve, because that's where that starts, is being focused again on what are you trying to do, and then everything follows from that.
I'm going to stand up. I don't like sitting.
Stand up, Liam.
I'm standing. Let me lay it on the line here.
You're the
No,
same
I'm
height
kidding.
standing and sitting, by the way.
I know. That's because my inseam is roughly 21 inches. I'm like Elijah Wood post FX. So I think if you buy into the idea that design is something that permeates your entire company and your entire product, the idea of a full stack designer makes zero sense, and engineering becomes a design discipline, which I think it is. So full stack designer makes no sense. Although it does make sense to hire designers, you do need to reevaluate what you're doing with them and what they're for. And if you're engineering lead, then yeah, they are going to, like, full stack means a micron inch panache on top of whatever you're building. So I don't like stacks. Let's not say stacks. There are layers, but not stacks. Also, UX is a weird term.
It's a terrible term.
Pretty bad.
All right, who's next?
Step up to the microphone of destiny.
Sorry, I just pick it up. But so I'm actually gonna draw back attention back to school because I'm still in school. I don't go to design school, so what is the biggest thing that I miss?
I'd say nothing bad, probably.
Wait, say that again.
I'm sorry. So I'm not in design school. What is the biggest thing that I miss by not going to a design school and wanting to be a designer?
A large amount of debt? Seriously.
I get that from your former answer. Any other answer?
Yeah.
What are you going to? What kind of school are you in?
Okay, allow me, long story short, I go to this really new school called Minerva. I portray it as a tribe of very intellectually driven students who travel around world while study. So it's a liberal arts college, and I study psychology.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's founded by, I think, the former CFO of Snapfish, right?
Yeah, Ben Nelson.
Yeah, you remember Ben?
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, he had that wine bar.
Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go there.
Well, cool. I've never met anybody who's gone there before. I'd say I don't know what you're missing. It depends on why do you want to go into design?
Why do you want to go into design world? I mean, industry or?
Yeah, whatever you want to do.
Oh, I want to solve problems.
Yeah, so you're fine. As long as you want to keep learning and want to solve problems, get what you can out of your education and enjoy that. And yeah.
Or should I frame the question that if there's one thing you learned from design school, what is the biggest thing?
None of us on this stage went to design school.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
I'll take it as an answer.
The cake is a lie.
yeah. I think one of the things you get from design school is, honestly, street cred. Because you go to design school, you learn to call yourself a designer. And if you're like me, then when I got out of school, and I dropped out of school because I failed algebra 3 times. So I was very nervous to call myself a designer, being that I was like just some kid who dropped out of school to go make websites. And that turned out to be totally a useless feeling for me to have. And if you're going to solve problems and you are a designer and you don't need anything else, and honestly, a psychology degree will prepare you for that just as well as anything else. Better.
Yeah,
probably.
even better. That's a good one. I'd say that's a real good one because it all starts from really wanting to understand people because people are crazy.
One of my favorite designers I ever worked with at Mule was a guy who was a psychology PhD dropout.
Oh my God, that's right. I forgot he was. He was great.
I love PhD dropouts. They're the best people.
He was going to be a therapist, so he was really good with clients. He had this amazing calming presence.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
I have one that came in like over
Yes,
email.
Stuart.
Is following on about like what are the right types of problems to solve. And this person is saying we hear a lot about disruption in Silicon Valley and in San Francisco. Like how I don't really know what that means, but my boss is telling me it's important. How do I know what to disrupt and what's worth disrupting?
I don't.
What is my role as a what is my role as a designer?
I don't understand what disruption means because it seems like earlier we were making money for rich white dudes and now we're making money for more rich white dudes and we're underserving women and minorities, so I don't actually see what got disrupted. I see poor people getting screwed before and after. So I'm not sure what that means.
Disruption was that thing that got me kicked out of class. That's all that is for me. I would rather solve it. Okay, disruption sounds like a thing that you say when you want to solve a problem, but you know there's going to be a ton of collateral damage. So maybe just solve a problem and avoid the collateral damage. Like maybe if you move slower and break fewer things, you won't do any disrupting. You'll just fix things.
Yeah, and I'd say this would be a great opportunity to go to that boss and say, so what do you mean by that word? I think that would start a really fantastic conversation.
I mean, there are so many problems out there that need solving, which is great. And terrible, but it's great if you're in the business of solving problems because we're assured some work. And if we actually take a look at what the problem is and who it's affecting and figure out a way to have those people not be affected by that problem, then I think that we've done some good design and we've put something of value into the world. And I mean, that's where innovation happens, is you figure out who's being screwed and you find a way for them not to be screwed anymore. It's leveling the playing field all around. That's what design can bring to the world. And that, I mean, not just design, but that's what I think everybody should be in the business of trying to do, is helping to level the playing field for everybody else. And maybe we wouldn't be screaming at each other all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, the theory of disruptive innovation comes from Clayton Christensen. And so, I mean, go read that if you want to know what that definition of it was that people are really misusing and perverting now. Because the whole idea of that was, there's a cheaper solution that's more useful to people that allows you to compete against the incumbents. Like, that's actually what the term originally meant. But now it's just like license to, get rich and not care about the implications.
We have time for a couple more.
Like, it got dark all of a sudden.
It's ominous, this question. That's why the lighting's gone down. You mentioned a little while ago about being kind of like inside a bubble, which I think is a lot of people in the room can probably understand, have very kind of left-leaning liberal friends, kind of share the same viewpoints. How do you see kind of what we're doing on, whether it's Twitter, designing poster stuff, rather than just screaming into the void of everyone already agreeing with each other? How do you suggest people can be better at trying to change other people's minds, trying to be better at changing kind of on a nationwide or global scale? I know you're very involved with whether it's gun crime or particular startups that you don't agree with, but yes, how do you actually reach a different audience rather than people who already agree with you?
I think you have to build teams that look like the audiences that you want to reach. And I think, sadly, Silicon Valley has been doing that. It has built teams of entitled white boys because they're building things for entitled white boys. And I think if we want to actually use the opportunity that we have on this earth to improve it, we need to take a look at what's happening out there globally and who's being affected by it. And we need to build teams that look like the people that we want to help, who have the same, who have the experiences of the people that we're looking to help. And I think we'll end up building more robust products. And I think we'll be reaching more people, we'll be helping more people, and I think it's actually a win-win for business as well. Because if you take a look at some of the bigger startups that are coming out of this city, none specifically. You take a look at some of the problems that are happening at the user level, and it's because situations are happening that weren't accounted for in the design of that product, because the people who design those products have never been in the situation that people are encountering. You can cheer for that. I want to thank Uber for hosting us today. Thanks, Andrew.
So I know, like, one of the quotes that I like from Mike says that your boss is a choice. And earlier, like you mentioned, like if they're looking for a design full stack person, don't work for them. But I think like most people in the room have rent to pay and food to put in their mouths and stuff like that. So what practical advice might you give people that, yeah, they work with someone that doesn't respect them, but they can't just quit. They can't just walk away because they have to get another job. Like, what's the practical advice and what's the steps forward for them?
And not everybody can move back in with mom.
I wouldn't recommend it anyway.
I have rent to pay as well. And I've actually been able to pay it by making the choices that I've made. Nobody's ever going to respect you for being a welcome mat. No one is ever going to respect you for behaving like for making bad choices and doing the wrong things and not stepping up. And this is practical advice. And I know that it's something that you have to aim for. Like your first job out of school, you're not going to be making like a $200,000 a year as a creative director somewhere telling other people how to do. You're going to have to take a couple lumps somewhere, but you need to be aware that that's the choice I'm making, and I'm making it for X amount of time, and this is what I want to get out of this experience. But eventually you need to get to a place where you need to be the expert in what you do, and come in with some authority, and come in with the confidence that that you're being hired to because you know something, because you're adding value. And then people, and that's how you gain people's respect, and that's how you can, actually practice the craft of being a designer.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of my career, I stayed in a crappy job too long for exactly that reason of I owe these people something and I should really stay here, but I'm not really getting what I need to out of it. And in some of our user research recently, I talked to a woman in the financial professions, and her strategy for jobs was she wouldn't just go to a company because of the role or because of exactly what that company did. She'd go there because of the people she'd be working with, because everybody leaves jobs. And she said this is how she moved around in her career, was getting to know good, smart people and having good relationships with them, and they'd help each other. I mean, networking, people use the term in a really gross, cynical way, and join my professional network on LinkedIn and all of that. But your career is about the people you know, and it's about your personal values. So if you're clear on your values and you know good people, you'll be okay. Like if people really know what you want to do, and again, this goes back to like, why are you in this profession at all? Like if you're really clear on that, people will help you. Like people helped me very early in my career when I said, I'm really excited about doing this. People want to help other people do that thing. So yeah, I'd say don't stay in that situation, because the more people refuse to stay in a situation like that, that's feedback into the system. And so it can be really scary, but it all goes back to like, how do I stand up for myself? How do I get my needs met? And how do I do something good and useful in the world? Like, you're not on your own. And if you are doing things for the right reasons, or even for, if you know good people, they'll want to help you. And that's how you have something to fall back on and strengthen your career is focusing on those relationships. I mean, it's a big myth that people who are successful get there on their own or through some amazing individual genius. Everybody has a tremendous amount of help.
Yes. I will also add that companies are made of people and can be changed by people. And if you are working in a place and you don't agree with something that's happening, or you think that you have a better approach, prove it. Come up with a way to objectively say, this is my idea, this is the way that we should be going, and tell it to people until they tell it to their boss, or until they open the conference room door, and it's then your job to tell it to their boss. Go up the ladder. You can do that if you are a loud enough person. I got design jobs created at a big place I was working. It was like a 200-person company. There were like 2 designers, and I said, maybe that's not enough. And so I just said that to people a lot. They were really annoyed with me. But in the end, they made more design jobs, and they did a better job. Of course, then I left, because with my left hand, I was writing job applications. With my right, I was changing the company. So do that.
It's a complex world. Yeah, I mean, we're here talking about design careers, and design is creating things and changing systems. And if your attitude is, oh, I'm a pawn in a system that I have no power over, you're not acting like a designer.
A pawn can be turned into a queen, people. It's just chess. Boom!
Even in my most cynical moment, I can't think that a boss or a manager or a client would ever think of the person that was working for them, I wish they were less confident about what they did. I think people want, I hire people, and what I want the most from people is I want them to take things off my plate. I want to not have to think about what I've given them to do, because I'm so confident that they're going to do it well, that they're going to do it better than I am, that I don't even need to look at it. And that's what a good boss wants to surround themselves by. People who are smarter than them, people who know things that they don't, and people who make them look good. So, that's what I look for, and I think that's what good bosses look for, and I think that attracts other good people into that mix. But ultimately, you want to be the person who your boss or your client feels is taking care of their shit. And that doesn't happen if you're worried.
Good morning. Thank you guys for everything so far. Switching gears a little bit, what are things you guys do for fun, or habits that you have or rituals that help to build your creative confidence?
What's creative confidence?
This is fun.
Well, you're designers, you're at work every day, sometimes you're doing the grind, but what do you do that gets you re-inspired about design? What do you do to, keep bringing new ideas and fresh things to the table?
My answer is going to be so annoying. When I run, that is so good for ideas reorganizing themselves in my head. It freaks me out when I'm stuck on something I'm writing or stuck on a problem. I'll go run up in a Golden Gate Park and the answer will come to me. So I think that getting away from the screen is, it sounds like a terrible hippie cliche. I'm going to be up here like Gwyneth Paltrow, steam your iPhone. But it's true. Just go out there and like embody the physical world for a while.
That was probably the best noun you could have ended that sentence with. I was pretty scared.
Suspense.
Yeah. I like to read, and I enjoy beer on occasion, which has been known to fire up my creativity in interesting ways. And
He's very creative around the office.
Oh, I'm super creative. Right around 4:30, I get pretty creative. And I watch a lot of cartoons, which I also recommend. Steven Universe is the best television show on TV. Who's with me? Nobody? No children? Okay.
I fight on Twitter. Mostly with the NRA, because they're a domestic terrorist organization.
Maybe now's a good time to jump in with another question.
Hi, Andrew.
Before it goes there, real quick, how many people here are sort of consultants, sort of out of house? Like, a few people, and how many people are sort of in-house startups? So then, related to that, my question is sort of career path over duration time. What are your perspective on sort of picking one, like going in-house and staying in-house for a while, or becoming a consultant and being in an agency life and doing that, do you think there's a value in sort of pinging back and forth, or is that even the right way to look at it?
Let me pose the question back to you, young Andrew. I think so. What I've gotten out of working at an agency, starting an agency, is that I get to see so many different types of problems, and they run the gamut, like so many different types of industries, and after a while you begin to see how the same problem gets repeated over and over and over in other industries, but nobody in the newspaper business has ever tried solving this problem the way like the porn industry did, because they don't talk to each other, but I do. So, I'm kidding.
This has taken a turn.
But it's the breadth of experiences that you get at an agency it ends up really helping you if you decide that at some point you want to just really focus on something and get really deep into it. What I miss most about working at an agency is that going deep on something and tweaking it over time, which I'm sure that you get in a place like this. You work really hard on launching something, you launch it, and then you watch it, and you find out where it's underperforming, and you realize that's the place that you need to innovate, so you figure out how to innovate that part of it, and that sort of attention to detail over time is something that you're not going to get in an agency, because you're constantly working on something new and trying to get that out the door. So there's definitely benefits in doing both things, and if you really want to have a really well-rounded perspective on what it is to do UX design, I would recommend hitting both at some point in your career. I just really recommend getting your first job out of school or your first job very early on, going to a place where you can work really closely with somebody who has that kind of experience. And I do recommend starting at an agency, because getting that diversity of experience is important before you decide, all right, I want to go really deep on this one thing. And there's something, so my friend Jared Spool actually has a really great example of this, and it's with the medical profession. So every doctor during medical school, they do, what are they, rounds, they're called? Rotations. They do rotations. So they study every different part of the medical profession. They do a little bit of everything. So anybody who's a doctor can, take your pulse, deliver a baby, all of the, the basic core stuff. And then some of them decide, you know what, cardiology is my thing. I'm going to go deep into cardiology. Some of them decide, you know what, I really enjoy the chaos of ER, so I'm going to be an ER doctor. But all of those things are built on that foundation of I know a little bit about everything. And I think as designers, that would be really helpful to how we approach how we learn our craft, because we've got people now who are like, coming out of school or like 6 months into their career and being, you know what, I want to be the person who focuses on this. And there's no design problem out there that consists solely of this. It's always this, but surrounded by lots of other things. And the more that you understand those other things, the more you understand how those other disciplines work, the more you understand how the engineers work and how the marketing team works, and all of the other disciplines that put your product or your service together, the better you'll do your particular job.
And to add to that, I'd say the danger of working internally at a company, especially at a startup, is you lose that critical edge, because when you have this vision and you're trying to do something new, it's a very rah-rah environment. And I don't necessarily mean that in a derogatory way, but as a designer, you're supposed to be constantly asking questions and criticizing things and saying, is this the best way to do something? And that can make you super unpopular if you're on a team that's like, okay, we don't have a lot of resources, we don't have a lot of time, we just got some funding, we have to get this thing out there. If you're always in that environment, then you can start self-censoring. You can stop asking, like, why are we even doing this? And that's a really, really important question to be comfortable asking. It's a very uncomfortable question to ask. And I think spending all your time in product companies, you really start drinking the Kool-Aid in a bad way. I started at a publishing company that spun out a startup, so I got to see that whole thing, and then that went under, and I went to an agency, and I love it. Agency work is not for everybody. This is why I'd say you really want to know why you want to be a designer, what you want to accomplish. And it's fine if you enjoy working in product companies. We've had people come to work for us, having never worked in an agency before, and get there and be like, wow, clients are really mean. I can't handle this much criticism. I'm quitting now and going back to a product company. And that's fine, because it's right for them. Yeah.
I would add, so I'm relatively early on in my career. I am younger than these two. I think it'd be safe to say. That's not a dig. It's shut up.
Really?
Shut up. Who's them?
He makes us buy his beer for him at the store so he can be creative.
Miss Hall, will you buy some beer for me? No, so I was reflecting recently on the fact that I've been doing this for maybe like 7 or 8, 6 or 7, some amount of years, a single-digit amount of years professionally. But I have probably like 40 or 50 more years to go, and I doubt there will ever be like a 3-year gap that will ruin me. Like, if I enter a product company and it doesn't work out for like 3 years, like that seems like a lot for me now, but it's a career. And I believe that there is no dead end you can go down that will be a dead end because of your environment. You are responsible for what you're learning once you're an adult. So I don't worry about my career while I'm at my job. Those are separate ideas. The career cannot be molded by you.
One of the first things Liam said to me after I hired him was we were sitting around having lunch, and I forget what we were talking about, but he goes, loyalty to a company is stupid.
It is. It's
and I
really
had just
stupid.
hired him.
Look, you can be loyal to people, but you should never be loyal to a company, because the company's job is to get value out of you. The people are there to be people. They can be warm. The company is not warm, no matter how much coffee they feed you.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And it's actually a trick of the human limbic system that people assume this mutuality. Like, I'm loyal to the company, so the company will be loyal to me, but the company actually sees you as an asset.
You're a resource. Yeah. A human resource. That's what that means.
It's really creepy when you think about it.
To the company, you are stacked up like cordwood. You are like one of the pieces on the playing field. So never be loyal to the company. Be loyal to the people that you meet there.
Because they're going to mill you into a chair.
Do you remember that Simpsons episode where they opened the room and there were all the rats being milked?
Yeah, milk. Yeah. I drink plenty of delicious, nutritious milk.
This is exactly what our meetings are like. I hope you know that.
I guess going off of both of the last questions and being more specific, if I'm just out of design school and I'm with my first company, how many years do you think I should stay, and how long does it take to get that experience, whether to either go to another firm or start my own, or as far as years go?
There's no number in years. Just stay as long as you feel like you're getting something out of it. Stay as long as you feel like you're learning. If that's 6 months, then so be it. If you find yourself still there in 5 years, enjoying it and learning every day, then that's great too.
When you're looking to hire, though, and you see someone with their first job was 6 months, what do you see out of that?
I've never looked at a resume when I've hired anyone.
I can actually confirm that he has never seen them. I try to stay at a job a year just because that's what I do. But I also believe that the last 6 months of the last job I stayed a year at were some of the worst 6 months of my life. And I would rather someone say, this 6 months on my resume was exactly enough that I needed to learn what I needed to learn at this company and then leave before it ruined my life. I'm fine with that. That sounds great to me. That sounds like a person who knows what they're doing. And it will always come down to whether you are learning and growing at the place you are working.
Yeah, because it's important to have somebody who can intelligently assess a situation. And I would much rather hire somebody who was like, I was working for them, they described the job one way, the job turned out to be something totally different. And, I treated them in a fair manner. I did what I could, but I got out. Like, that's a great thing to hear from somebody versus like, I was scared and I sat in the corner in pain for 3 years because I thought that's what I had to do.
Follow-up question. If you don't look at resumes, what do you look at?
I look at your portfolio. Your portfolio gets you in the door, and the conversation that we have during the interview gets you a job. So then we'll look at your portfolio together, and I'll ask you questions about why you made the decisions you made on that particular project, and the answers to those questions are the reason that I would hire or not hire somebody.
And I would also say that we probably are not even going to look at the portfolio unless the cover letter reads like someone whose portfolio we should look at.
Yeah, the cover letter for us is incredibly important because I know at big organizations, there's like software that scans for keywords, a full stack. Great, you're in. We'll bring you in for an interview. Yeah. The cover letter to us is so incredibly important because we help people communicate more clearly. And I don't think no one is teaching people how to write email. We've come to that assessment. And the cover letters are so all over the map from like, hey, expletive, I know you guys like expletives, to, 10 paragraphs of something incredibly formal that looks like it comes out of a 19th century composition manual. That the good cover letters, like we've seen these, yes, we've seen these all. The cover letters really help us understand whether the person is a good communicator and is self-reflective and can evaluate a particular situation and be context aware, because our work is all about being context aware. So I'd say absolutely, it's the person, like if there's a good reference, if it's somebody we know and respect who says, look at this person, we'll look at them. And aside from that, yeah, we'll really like bring somebody in on a cover letter because we're all super busy. This is the truth about people hiring. And I bet Andrew can totally attest to this. Like, I have to hire a lot of people. Oh my God, it's so much work. And I have so many other things to do that anything you can do to make the person hiring you, to make their life easier, that will really work in your favor, because interviewing and evaluating people takes up a tremendous amount of non-billable time.
The gentleman in the back.
Hi, my name's RJ, and I want to ask a question about finding good work. So, i.e., like sales. So, how do you find good or great work to do that you really believe in, that you want to change the world with, and then how do you make those decisions? How do you weigh all the different trade-offs between the payday, how long the project is, what the actual project is?
Wow, that's a big question. We get good work now because we said no to bad work early in our existence as a studio. And that again goes to the like, oh my God, I've got to eat. And And that's really it. It's all about the people we've worked with in the past and having really good references. And we can tell, again, it's one of those things, we can tell when somebody contacts us about a potential job, often from the letter they send us, whether it's going to be a good job or a bad job. It's like, who referred it to us? How do they describe their work? What words are they using? Like what did that crazy RFP say? Like, we want a legendary website to illuminate our gravitas, and we're like, that one goes in the bin.
We got the worst RFP.
It was the worst / best.
I think the person who wrote it is here.
Probably. They referred to research as navel gazing.
And they spelled navel wrong.
So the phrase that they wrote ended up meaning like
Did they,
literally
though?
looking at sailors.
Yeah.
Come back for Fleet Week, guys. Yeah, it comes down to like good people in a functional organization, because if the client is a functional organization, they will have assigned appropriate resources to a project, and they won't want something huge for no money. So all of these things tend to cluster together. Like good people we work for a lot of nonprofits and mission-driven organizations, but not exclusively. We work for people who we think are doing something useful, and the people who work in organizations that are functional and doing something useful tend to be good people. And they know other good people. And it's sort of this virtuous cycle that all comes around. But it really comes down to, like, we've had hard conversations over people like, oh, we got an RFP from TMZ. What do we do? Yeah.
I wanted to take that one.
I know. There's a real discussion.
I'm going to add something, because you also talked about how do you balance that with the payday. And that's definitely like a pure accounting question. Like, is the amount of money that they have enough to support us? But did you know you can ask someone if they can find more money? You can just do that. We did that.
We just did that. It totally worked out.
We did that the other day.
We
It
do
worked
that all
fine.
the time.
We needed it. And if we were going to take this job, which was a great job, we needed more money. And so we said, guys, if we want to take this job, we need more money. And they said, okay.
Yeah, because they wanted to work with us. So it's like, be good, first of all, be good enough that people believe that that you can actually help them solve their business problem. And then tell them, like, we're very clear about the terms under which we'll work with somebody. And we've found that really differentiates us as an organization. If we come in and we say, okay, in order to do this right, you have to do it this way, which is our way. And we'll listen to you, and we'll work really hard on behalf of your organization. But we're not going to bend to your whim, because your whim is not based in the expertise that we have. And we're very firm about that.
If I may coin a Dr. Philism, if you want to do good work, make good work work for you.
Nicely done.
And one more thing before we wrap up here. I know that we talked about working at mission-driven organizations and stuff like that, but I want to make sure that just say this. Good work can be done in any kind of organization at any size. It's just a matter of whether you have the support. Whether small companies, big companies, startups, we need people making good decisions and committed to doing good design, especially at companies that have billions of users, because those are the companies where those bad decisions are going to affect the most people. So if you work at those companies, it is so important that you're doing the job right and that you're fighting for the users who come in contact with that stuff. That's probably the most important job in design right now, is taking care of the big behemoths and making sure that they're sailing the right way.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Liam Campbell, Erika Hall, Mike Monteiro. We'll see you all back again in 2016. Thank you.